everybody to Helicon West. We are going to start with some open mic, so if you would like to sign up, please just raise your hand. I'll slip it to you.
I don't know if that's on one check.
Oh, yeah, okay. So if you'd like to read for open mic, or even if you are lukewarm about it, please just raise your hand, and we'll get that to you. Okay. Pass that to Shanan. All right, so first of all, welcome to Helicon West. We'd like to thank Joseph and the Logan Library and of course the Writing Center and STAR for putting this all together and letting us be here. Tonight we are lucky enough to have a couple of featured readers who are a little stuck in traffic, so that's why we're going to start with open mic. And tonight is part of the literary program, the Center for the Humanities. And so we'd like to also thank Michael McLean. He's the literary program officer for Utah Humanities. So Helicon West, this Helicon West event specifically is part of the 20th annual Utah Humanities Book Festival. So because of people like McLean and many others with Utah Humanities, we get to interact with great authors like Abby and Matthew. The Books Festival major sponsors are the George S. and Dolores Dorr Eccles Foundation, the R. Harold Burton Foundation, Chevron, the National Endowment for the Arts, and the National Endowment for the Humanities. So that's what's on your chair. Please take the time to look that over and fill out that survey. And our first three open mic readers are going to be Ronald, he's in the back, and then Brittney Allen, and then Nathan Allen. Oh, Shanan. Okay, we'll go Ron, Shanan, Brittney, and Nathan.
Hi.
Hi,
Ron.
When we got to old women, I know I got my weaknesses. I'm not the perfect man. But I hope when you meet me, the Timm here as I am. I hope I can give you all the love you deserve. I hope to be the husband you began to serve. Oh women, wherever you are, I'm waiting to be your bright star. Once you're married, this isn't my complete. Working the peanut butter, no baby's little feet. And if it gets anything, the kids in my school, have a shirt of leather. They'd be your jewels. Oh women, wherever you are, I'm waiting to be a bright star. The when kids will go, and I've all moved away. I hope our love will go until our dying days. When the fire was still, after all that we gave, I hope our love continues beyond the earthly gaze. Women, wherever you are, I'm waiting to be a bright star. From Local, like the wind. I remember back in school, and I thought your hair was like the wind. You were so fair. I thought your eyes were so beautiful, and you were like the sun. I thought you'd be my girl, and be a lot of fun. Like the wind, you carried me away from the growing up to the present day. Like the wind, I'll always be there to prop you up from year to year. 10 years went by, and you fell for me. The winter time was night. Right, I got down on one knee, and now we are married after all this time. I started at this pump, singing "God You're Mine." Like the wind, you carried me away. And we're going up to the present day. Like the wind, I'll always be there to blow you up from year to year. Thank you.
I hadn't planned on reading, but this is conveniently up here. My homes are here, so I thought, okay, since we're waiting. But then you'll have to wait for me to find my work in here real fast. Many people are in this anthology. Okay. These poems are actually from the collection that I've just completed and I'm sending around, hoping to get published. It's called Inside the Animal, the collected Red Riding Hood poems. This first one is called Wolf Wears Red Riding Hood's Cape. When the story is silent behind its hard covers, Wolf slips into the cape, becomes a mind of clean wind. His clumsy paws arrange delicate shawls around grandmother's shoulders. Gently, he combs her thin hair. A wonderful sadness washes through him when he wanders in fields glistening bluebells, their heads bowed in reverence. He hears their soft prayers. For hours he labors with a paintbrush, watercolors, paints sunsets for grandmother, orange, purple, gold. She fastens his pictures high on her walls. He floats in a cold river, opens his eyes underwater, feels the pure ecstasy of distortion. He sleeps next to grandmother. In the dark, she tells him of baby Moses adrift in his tiny ark. And the second one is in Red Riding Hood's voice, and it's called Red Riding Hood and Her Mother, the City. Inside my mother's mind thrives a glittering city. There my mother lives, dressed in pearls and high red heels. Sometimes her eyes shine, and in them I see a million glimmering windows, streets roaring electric traffic, tall men with fat wallets offering their arms, their delicious dark secrets. And now I know she no longer needs me, having lived so long in her lovely city. I see the way she gazes out the window, always startled and disappointed by my voice. But I can hear a strange river rustling under the house. At night, with the old shovel, I dig around the foundation. Last night, I saw the water's dark blink. One more day of digging and I can slip through the crack and into the river, which seems to know exactly where it's going. I will pack a basket, build a raft, use my red cape as a sail, let it slide me away.
Hi, I'm going to read you a couple of my pieces. The first one is called My Friends the Worms. I fray the stem and suck the color from each petal. Spring is no match for my destructive drunken drivel. Leaves aren't green enough to bend around my grave-digging shovel, so I bury them. I meet worms on my way down. They tell me tales telling of terrible boredom, that dirt tastes better if that's all you eat, but I give them my ear, and they have a feast. Bottle your fingers for later. Vinegar is bitter, but let us bury you soaked, and you'll last so much longer. They slither inside me, some drowning in blood, and others in piss. Some laugh and couch themselves across my brow, tickled to suck the color from my iris. And the second one I'm going to read is called Paperweight. I just sold my car. Wasn't good for much but holding down the driveway. Filled but bald tires notwithstanding, it's a piece of shit. Got me from A to B, assuming C was already within walking distance. A place to store dried puddles of paint in cushions and house rusty bolts that knock like a scared drunk in the middle of the night. It has its charms. A manual. I like the CD that's stuck in the radio. The ring you can hear squeal from the poorly maintained timing belt harmonizes with me if I choose to sing the right notes. It wasn't even worth what I was asking, begging for it. Some last-ditch effort to see it be useful to me or at all. I'm going to miss my giant paperweight. I loved that heap of rust and peeling paint like I loved the weight that cried to me, desperately honest from a place of cold rain and men demanding push-ups, who asked me to marry her, buy her a ring, and fly across the country to be with her, just to dump me at the altar, wanting to see what she could get now that she realized people thought that she was pretty. That is, I loved that piece of shit more than anyone would, if they knew how easily it overheats. At least its new driveway isn't going anywhere. And if I don't have to sing with it anymore, I don't care if it keeps the ring. Thank you.
I'm Brittney. I was gonna say I didn't dump him at the altar, but that's obvious, it's fine. So I'm gonna go. I brought two pieces, two flash pieces tonight, and the first one's called Crossing. A 40-year-old woman parked her gray 2015 Hyundai Elantra, plate number X74WA, facing the highway and intersecting train tracks. Overcast skies. When a black 2009 Ford Escape pulls up and parks next to the Elantra 12 minutes later, the woman shuts her engine and exits her car to climb into the passenger seat of the Escape. She takes a bright pink bag with yellow flowers. In the driver's seat of the Escape, a much younger woman kills the engine. She does not unbuckle her seatbelt. Both women have blue eyes and long fingernails. Oily drops from the sky thunk on the SUV's hood. The first concessions from overhead. Their mouths fall faster. I have to protect my family. Family, no, you're choosing him. No, yes. Why can't they come? You stay or whatever, but the kids come. I don't want them to get confused. The older woman drums her fingers on the pink bag. They won't be confused. People asking them, where are your parents? Why isn't your mom here? Then you come. I will not without my husband. We're a team this time. Yeah, okay, so the kids will be less confused by not being allowed to go to their sister's wedding. What are you even going to tell them? I don't know, we'll have to decide that. Edward could probably go. I don't think he's old enough to get it. That's not. With a ring ding, the red lights across the tracks begin flashing. The arms go down, and cars speeding from city to small town on the highway brake. The younger woman's hands fly off the steering wheel to cover her face. I go to therapy every single week, and I have to believe it's not my fault, and I have to tell myself it's not my fault. It's so fucking hard for me to finally think that I was conditioned, so now I can say these things because they weren't me, and it sucks that the more I can finally say, you throw it back in my face. You woke up, you knew when. It was one time in bed, we were shaking it and you flipped over so quick. You were trying to catch us and you knew it. I don't know. The oncoming train honked in warning. What do you mean, no? You were awake, we were behind you, you flipped over and looked right at us and we froze. That never happened. I don't remember that ever happening. But you caught us, honk. The driver strained her seatbelt to face her passenger. Do you believe me? Do I believe what? Do you believe me when I say what your husband did? Honk. I think that, knuckles white on the handbag. No, just say it, just say no. All I want is no. Do you believe me? If I did, I wouldn't be married to him right now. A final blasting honk as the cargo train lugs through the intersection, tracks groaning beneath the weight of freight after freight. Okay, then Mom, I love you too, but I need you to get out of my car. Fair enough. My mother exits the Escape, slams the door, and gets back into the Elantra. Windshield wipers frantically kick in, trying to push away all the liquid that's fallen between the conversations so she can drive away. She backs out of the parking stall first, shifts into gear, and then pulls up to the highway with the blinker ticking left. She has to wait for all the traffic and wake up the train. And this second one, which is just as happy, is called Contain. My postcoital pubic hair was damp. Adam, the older man whose ad I answered on Craigslist, preferred I sit in a hot bath after he came, washed the sperm from me before he let me back into his sheets. I rolled over in bed to face him. My long-nailed hand ran up and down the inside of his forearm, the one with the pine tree tattoo. Did your mom tickle you, Daddy? It now sat like a wet rag in my mouth, but it's what he told me to call him. When you were a kid? Adam moaned as my fingers grazed his palm. It was supposed to be a two-way street. Yes, baby girl, why? I wished we could have switched roles, that I could flip onto my belly and he could take a turn tickling, 1 minute for every orgasm I faked when his voice grinding on my ear told me to. Mine did too, I whispered. I remember when the tub Julio bought to buy my mom back was delivered. He smashed her bathroom wide open, putting a huge counter and mirror where a closet used to be. He even put in a new toilet with a button for piss and a button for shit, and my mom painted the walls green. I was living in the dorms on campus when Julio sent me the picture message of my mother. I think of it sometimes, her face like a leaky faucet in my mind, the way she looked up from the belly of the dry bath into the camera, submissive, the looseness in the corners of her smile and the dilated pupils, like she was being measured for a coffin. When I went home that weekend, he dragged me to the fiberglass trap, told me to get inside, and took out his phone for a picture. All my family had before was the yellow tub in the main bathroom. It didn't even have a shower head attached until I was 15, just in time for me to use it to frantically scrub sperm from my inner thighs and asshole. But before the shower head, the home's only tub was a yellow cradle that we bathed our baby brother in, undressed and droned Barbies, slid down the sloped backrest until our tailbones bruised. If I had the bathroom to myself, I would gather a big breath, slip under the water, lay my forearms and shins flat, and push against the sides as hard as I could while breathlessly screaming, "C-3PO, where are you?" I didn't let Julio take a picture of me, but I let Adam. When he sends me pictures a couple days after, I see my mother's frozen smile on my naked body. I am also looking up into the camera, the space in my blue eyes wide enough to drown in. Thank you. And now I'm back as the MC. Much more PG this time. So we still have a bunch of spots left on our open mic list. If anybody wants to sign up, you can raise your hand, wave a flag, and we'll track you down. We'd like to welcome our guests tonight, Michael and Abby. Which?
And Matthew.
And Matthew.
This
Oh
is
my
Michael.
goodness.
And is it Abby or Aby? Abby.
Abby.
This is Matthew.
And Matthew. Welcome. Abby and Matthew will be our readers tonight, and Michael is here representing the Utah Humanities Council. Perfect, and that's what all the surveys are on your little chairs. So after our readers, you can go ahead and fill those out, and make sure you leave them in the back there before you leave tonight. Abby and Matthew, do you have a preference? Who goes first? Okay, perfect. Awesome. So our first reader will be Abby. Abby is the author of most recently NOS or NOS. Perfect. Okay, sounds good. Which means disorder not specified. With Matthew, along with disorder 299. She's also written the collections Little G, God Grows Tired of Me, Absence is Such a Transparent House, and Scenic Fences, Houses Innumerable. Her poems have appeared in the Seattle Review, Fence, La Petite Zine, Doozy, Verse, Denver Quarterly, and others. She holds master's degrees in both creative writing and occupational therapy and lives in Fort Collins, where she currently serves as the Poet Laureate. Please help me welcome Abby.
Yeah.
Thank you everyone for having us in tonight. It's been a gorgeous drive up and I envy where you live. It's just beautiful here. And thank you for the two readers before me. I'm glad we got here on time for some of that. Tonight, is this loud enough?
Maybe you tilt it up just a little bit.
How's that?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So tonight I'll read a little bit and then Matthew will, and then we'll share part of our collaborative work. So my newest poem. If I, like Christ, I did, displeased and without hope, my house I set afire. Men, my men's I flushed aside. My fields I burned and children too. Like Christ, I burned it. Or like Father, I said no. I said by two. I said drown. I said light the boy on fire. If like my Lord, I made a band of angels and a freeway too, and demons on white horses, swords of fire falling. If I the long hair dealt or burnt brush burning spelt, or said, follow me into the thresh, uncover my feet bare, culverts flash flooding in the air, said, to the river, little sheep, said, I will never, never leave you, never. I said, keep your hair, your long, long hair. I said, dance his head upon the plate. if I, the exacting good Lord, knew. Little star of brethren men, babies in thy nest tonight, all little children nestled blackened. Days such hybrid, no casting of or for, pure, less a net for precise fish. And like my holy faculty, a freeway through the hills I made it fast and wide. And to the side I lent an ocean, thick salt breeze and whomping wave, critters you will never name. You'll never name them. I may never have a name. Fear thee, love thee, need, ignore thy composition, apropos, all apropos. Touch thee, yet be I, know it not. If I, my lord, a lintel and a rain, a bloody little lamb I'd loved, a rabbit in the garden loved, prune and prune and prune, prune if it bear not fruit. Beneath each frond quick capsule of thy grace I take, and wait, and wait, and wait. This next poem, the last one I read before Matthew comes on up, it's a long poem called Scenic Fences, which will tie into our collaborative reading in a little while here, but I wrote it in those obscene months before my daughter was born, when you're just wicked pregnant and there's this little being inside of you that's taking over your mind and your body, and this other little being that's taking over your mind and your heart, and it's all wicked, and I couldn't sleep, so. A room evacuated, kept, unfilled, has room for 7 times the demons, 7 times the stilled, the selved, the leaving fences. In the air, white fledglings, ladders unfurl, domes contract, and here, scenic in the field, wave demarcations of the missing. When the runaway can't scale the mind, when the fence is scenic, when a blue kettle screeching is the last soldier in the house, is me, hummingbird scratching, when sidewalks refract dawn's fight-driven dreams to meridians, to tombs, to fingers, to juleps, bracelets, cast ghost sights in the kitchen and slant and late. I am turning all right now, becoming a room for books and hued tables in a woven night, a filled, waking and visionful night. The body, that other body you respond to, the one you reap, refuses to wake, writes grieve in the rainbed, the basalt, the mobile, choking over the baby's crib. Field called open house, all the banners unraveling, all pointing away, away. Recall those viewers, the linen-lined egalitarians, white waverers pinned to, wait, not enough delineation. I don't see, don't plow, don't furrow, don't lamb my rivers, each spring a finale requiemed. 2 hail our fathers, 1 Teodoro. Birthright lambing I, my portable infirmity. You pin assumptions to ingredients, summon all your rakes for usurpation. You who make a father, remake your son. You're a self. So take the whole damn family shopping. Sunday, bathe them in the hot springs. Rend anything. A century of employments rolling over have left the viewers watching the witness. Pinned to what their wire is, where it fixates, in whose womb, mean and wild the belly chords, each singularity to the notion that one could be generous, one could look closely in your pantry. Return the body, the one you resound to. Lose it once and leave. Be sad at the demolition of your house. Sweep, then sweep, and let, if the underbelly shows echoes of empathy, let any worth resist the markets. I will give you a new name, and the name in truth is perfect. So do other things. Build a hummingbird dome. Wear a mean hat. Erase the harborers and keps. Dictate traffic in the garden land. Loose clod, Let. White triangles slap in the window. Squirrels and sweet peas climb into your dovecote. Surrender then is egalitarian, prolific, expansively exhumable. Tubas in a funereal parade. Blessed are the multitudinous, for my flesh on this morning confettis his temple. 3 addresses for the outcome. If I lose them all, me. If I am unclear or echoes are the loudest, impossible. If proudly cohesive, here the troops never gave birth against the enemy. Ménage à trois. The bodies beside the body, you sometimes, and lying there and trying accidentally appear to misaddress invitations for other men's pockets. The missing slipped through, the fence was illusory, the ladder unparsed. How fall of me to eclipse the viewers? Rent. Is there no one beyond the veil? The cast is not the monstrous shadow. Belly button in the bell jar, sunlight on the morning sill, something's about to scorn through. Sweep, then sweep. If we don't leave tonight, please, we are still here. Or if we do leave tonight, we are still here. Leave the door unlatched. When the mug is bottomless, when I leave the table through it, when I pass people coming in, when I find them in my mouth, when they hammock in my incisors, won't change the bathwater when they do, and when they heave it down my neck, and raccoons lap me up, I turn wreck into dim shadows, whom I've kept, whom I covet, whom I cannot speak. And when they would wander, I've caged them. So many kingdoms, they come without joy, and leaving impossible's that motion. Nesting beyond here, goodbye and goodbye. And day don't come back, or day I give and can't and give, count my unlessings while casing is wanting is swept. Let out those invitations. Let the simpers unfolding appear. Thank you.
So we'll hear from Aby again in a minute, but come back to a little collaboration. I'll read a bit from the new book, came out in 2016, Spool. And to suffice to say, it's a procedural project of 3-word lines. Every poem in the book has 3 words at each line. And that was the technique I used really to keep writing while our life went from new marriage and about to have a baby to now with an 11-year-old with pretty severe autism. And the book in some ways charts the journey of that. What someone summons begins to stand. Moon or love, hubris, desperation, whatever it brings, sweet baby's blood's tides. Orbit a longing sleeve through lives, call them desire scrims, rhythmic culture artifact, mining ardor between the wars, good benefit, exchange rate, need to say, someone's watching me, I'll have another, and boom, particular moon goes down, making lovers' pacts with hard elements and the soft. Equivalency across borders, scales and skins, a network of satellites, children, willows will dare compose and celebrate leaps. Why still it's there. Pesky earth feeling in genes. Let's take them off and dive into actual moonlight. What color then? Mute, resplendent, well, fitted heart whistle, noose and timber, how to talk him down, how to brush his hackles into eyes, clear seeing the main of us, do not shoot, them looking and wanting kindness so, very much wandering, sketches of him, not quite Spain, from a tower, in a coat, high caliber riffle, shoots panoptic waves, a circular bring, alone to propose, this peace bullet will eat you. To write a year in 3s, these little whiles and pauses, what they bring to doorsteps, planets, turns at the window, on my mind, limited splendor, bright folds now, love or parenting, the time it loses or looses, indelible house plotting the new child, the better man, bird in hand, bonus weird like a line singing makes a limit out of days, slowly the dark in imperfect finity, forever in time, these nights splendid. Plane in sky, seen from car, driving horizon. Now it goes down. On the news, some people spying, we're not home. A pervasive anxiety intrudes on a Ford probe, or a gathering society severs my protest. Race on race, city on city. Is it we're free from the surveillance when we made the surveillance? I'm not saying I'm not spying, but unconditional mind keeps coming round. I pay attention, watch my breath, try humble enlargement or submit accounts. The plane flies as if unperturbed, the camera pans, inventing disaster. What white line descending? Vow to increase, fear to diminish, eyes and hours as ours, not yours. It's rub the bottle and rattle the flowers, toil the wheel and trouble errors. What does count continues to count. Quality or sincerity, 1, 2, 3, into an infinity that senses beauty is gathered energy. Start a fire. Move freshly into the circle, first of all fathers, a child becomes. My flinty query to the day, what's the day for or against? A pressiness, a receptivity, in the glands, the mounds of shit, some elixirs of wind lifting the pine. Deer scat and lure the jazz out of stellars, jeet, jeet, and red squirrels nut on high wire. Prepare for winter, a spring across, snow or digging down, the query, hunger and heat, my pen moving in the sun, the liquid ink, the blood's blood. To dwell in rooms is hue, use the one and only complexity keeps the dusty corner cornered. Here it is late, I'm so alone, and I am unable to make it go, or finish, I only wish that there was got to too. You are first on a list complexly. These are hours and days, oh days, to singularize and bind disparities. Please, please, baby, please, make larger space. That we do enter by luck, or fate, the scroll making rustle, let's say history just today, a poem by accident in this life, a thee you are who came riding a bike by my garden, who said it would be by planting and watching. Roses are visible, make this page glow, my Hottentot. We all have good and bad inside us. Sinister sister, a locket of ginger, what we spring in dreams or noses, a twin's impulse to look up. Let's hope you're not entombed, some black fly in white ink, formers, ladders, climbing rights. We can be better. The book is made up of their individual poems that comprise a long poem, and this reflects that this mode went on for a better part of a decade of writing and surviving. So I can sort of move around rather quickly. Snow so real it singes as it falls, both here and dreaming, something thick like blankets, heavy burden on the lap. My face cold was a ride through North Snow, some Lake Tahoe, blue parent eye with lost ponies, skidding across asphalt. Lessons learned how real life imaginary works a source. Snowed so hard, could say we weren't really moving. White, amniotic holocraft, blood and nostrils. Except the bells kept us safe. Come back now, a ringing through, when I was new of singe. Vertigo, that's intentional. Time is honey and honey pain. Is everything the same? Is everything the same is? Render, sketch, it's all too much. I am too tired riding, rowing, my vacant oar, heart muscle, ear, hears joyous grieving, the wound's inexhaustible fluttering. What slacks there, midwinter lull, not enough to simply be and see, love arrived with snow shovel, a soluble vroom of give, I take it now, render sketch again, a heart-sore scene. awake, half awake. So little happens in this life. What changes really changes in her eyes. A ring rung to dream, a face, a recognition. Her skin seething difference, sweet evidence can't reach ends. Looms a you I choose, and you I choose. An ending or a pause. Admit the tape is broken now, so sick and slick the master's gone astray. Dove flew, the hub's askew, a wager's lost, that love things last or don't. They grind the wife and husband with their teeth. Fragments curry favor, that's occasional sauce to lubricate losses or quell complaints. It's what I think's her guts to give graces. I think I'll shift to read a newish poem that comes from the perhaps unfortunate collision of Macklemore and John Dryden. It's called Repair. It starts with an epigraph by Alexander Pope. Together let us beat this ample field. I set out for joy and arrive at target. One more day of sunshine and perplexity. The wind down pain or main or haddock. Nothing more, nothing less. One could sign a kind of progress, that'd be nice. Riches or rain or real angels, relief in bees or help raking leaves, some rapper in Philly making sunshine out of hate. But who can say there too? I can't breathe you. I'm fumbling in the parking lot, lack of contact standing in the crowd, keyless entry on vague emergency, my generation of cloud concern psychopathology, local weather, or where or whither. The tip of ice into relative loss, egress shoppers, I'm shouting, we're leaving. And where to go when the feeling's gone? I love that song. Rather to read the wise man as a nursing scholar, study the body as a social pact, a gendered art, and others functioning in fact. Share the nuts, the slip, the slide, that's perspective rising from blood to brain. Corrective tissue, I mean enlargement that has cause. Further than a tree in its simply speech, nothing to stitch the flow into the hutch. Why it's easy to be not me, lining the sky with silver to make it better. What makes something better is a common bond. Empathy feels a connection in the shins, while sympathy simply pushes the shopping cart away. Toward away, a push me till I pull you from the sea. Is this natural selection, races run? I write this poem because I don't know. Ocean's a mind of chorial signs, sedimentary gloss on planet rock. Wince when you see what I say. Is it better to stand on one's own and not go out? Bring them kitties and newsies to my hole before I sleep? That'd be dullness spread across, and dullness spread across and spread across is sharing. Yet bright star shines the living hand in the back of our back, at least to heft the angel out of bed. Something quick to make sweat sing, shine difference, gleam presence. I would issue linked hands to ground the shot day in all its perplexity. Something bound to squire loss, for loss is dumb and cruel and efficient, and efficiency is a fact of the environment. All querulous disregard for the obvious storm. Basic thermodynamics, people, trophic cascade, why each year a new place is named. Ferguson, Mosul, Mobile, San Bernardino. My heart knows nothing, is a know-nothing heart, seeking and breeding another's bleeding heart. Little blind wealth of some white claim, this is empathy, I fear you will understand. The wreckage of empire sheared on the liminal whale. End of you, I say, beginning of me. What is the whiteness of the whale? What little we seem to understand grows farther, grows faster, offers the skin too quickly to fire, consuming as it wanders all that it knows. I'm really just lost in menswear. Excuse me, the door's ajar. And are you free today to discuss your country's future? My daughter's an addict. Why, at least you have a daughter. My marriage has died. And what a lucky fellow you are to have wed. As I lay here dying, the river floods for real. A legacy floats over me, monstrous carp to sour fields. Factory disaster, agro-agar. At least you can say you lived. Concern, that is. There is no grandeur but ours, this day of rancor and blown-out knees. Believing the real emotions in the bilge, why not handle the pump? 'Tis better to feel the hand break on wood than grow a cold. Anon's coming, a fresh typhoon engulfs an island. The bodies are stacked in palm pyres, waiting. I rhyme to see the skies orange over Los Angeles. Marches, marchers, alive, awake, the sodium backflow of radiant gases, 1, 2. These hands ache from being up. Everyone's a nervous refugee in a world gone crazy. It's going to be great, it's going to be great. Call this terror or common or freedom. Officer, can you hear me? Can you hear me? It's grave and cold in my cell. To knock and knock and knock again. My head hurts. I should stop. It's outrageous. We're closing. Hurry up. It's time. It's been time a long time. Such broken records of human rain wreak wreckage, litter lawns, nothing less than harassment. Am I Bob? Donald? I can't breathe. Am I Syria, Nigeria, Timbuktu? I fear the guards, miss the angels. Life is a man named Deer with a rifle. Hold on to your hats, your asses. It's the same. Epic seen backwards from a random spray of blood. Aisle 4, all sad parent and salt pan pan. The surface is the problem. The problem is the burn. Everyone's skin born under the sun. Sir, seer, sur, equatorial stutter. Who's not always under the sun? And who the fuck knows what my hands will tell? And who the fuck knows what the heart knows? Approximate humans, the sign of the visible. Face of faces, hand in hand, easy to feel what is felt. It's the hidden that's missing. Lost envelope at the heart of our concerns. Hiddenness itself enfolded along the sinews of a dream. Shadow and light in corners and far sutures. Ghostly signs of kindness working in the genome. This is our embowerment, earthly embrace, each one different, the same. I am hungry for what I do not see and would find out by faith in above and below. Aerials arise, they are awake and shopping. I'm sputtering forward like Macklemore. Problemas on the line, day after day, the turn of the cart, not material at all, but vision, stretched to visionary. Having kids, jobs, catastrophes, drugs, my person seek conversions, and we struggle. Remember the 18th century and the 5th. I sense an old gyre in a tropical breeze. Tidal surge in Manila's been traveling a long time. It's got the daily missing in its forebody, plain sight. One love, beasties, repair, repair. What joy grieves, grief's joy. Borders in the air allied, why twirl in the search for a subject? Empathy and the opposite, feel it in beams that extend in all directions. Grace or grasses or platypus code, amniotic wedge or stem surge. It's there in the grasses of the miraculous stars. I set out for joy and reached Draco Dwarf, local satellite of our milky stuff. I can see. I look up and down with your eyes too. Wondrous calamity. Such roundness is the fruit of the spherical view. Capacious jam to bind and sum, stitching our asses to the bone. Breathe, breathe. We all must breathe. The earth must breathe the trees must breathe the people. One lung, ample field, we must not break the cycle. I care about you as you become me, my more than imbricate case. To be moving, I make it up out of fragrance. Another day, admittedly a mess, but to wish or wave a felt flag is my affect to see. You hold it skyways, and I'll try. Thank you. Now we're going to read a little from a collaboration that we've been working on for
8 years.
Yeah.
8 years, and that's all you got to show for it. It's teeny. Some pages hardly have any words on them. Look at that, 8 years.
We'll just go with, I can't top that. Introduction. Should I just start with good day?
Rage and catastrophe, diagnoses and advocacy. Disorder 299, that's the code for autism, by the way, medical code. Disorder 299 specifies the uncertainties autism brings to parenting and to language. What follows documents part of the journey of diagnosis, which precedes any action. But actions is slow, and our child doesn't sleep, doesn't eat, doesn't speak. This is felt as a strange intensity of being, both an intricately connected rhizome of form, agencies, doctors, codes, on an isolated island far out to sea with just enough room for 4. Studies suggest parents of children like our daughter have cortisol levels akin to soldiers with PTSD. We are hypervigilant. We are neither soldiers nor people with disabilities, but we are somehow a strange subcategory whose lives are entirely hijacked, consumed, coded. This is our attempt to code back.
Good day. And today was a good day. What with your rising to bathe and dress the daughter, put her on the bus and let me sleep. I sleep and cannot wash it out of me. Tired fear that rests too much on now. The day goes on, backing up its horn of plenty to this house, that house, not this house. We think there is delivery. Sometimes there is delivery. Then she sleeps, the wife, and I wake, and the daughter grinds her fists into her sockets. Nothing appears as it always does, like nothing you've seen before, closer in the mirror and more real. The collapse of time, dark bright hour, the house abed and blazing, a keening and a rocking and a whimper, make it stop. Present is this gift of the daughter's enormous need, and absent is the dream of her own dream, a blue house and a yellow car, 2 Chinese dogs and a child of her own. Baby body of brood, I cannot shake this futureless dream from sleep. It is not hopeless. She brings a joy as swim and more and movie, but it is holy child, a simple life without her own earned heartbreak. I staunched the fear of my own death and her perpetual childhood. Today was a good day.
A portion of this book we're going to read to you. This is a chapbook from Essay Press, and it can all be found online, which is great. Free chapbooks left and right with amazing authors. But it was also taken by Future Poem and will be coming out sometime this spring, about 3 times as long as this, so 8 years did do something. Keep in love, I don't know. But the portion we'll read to you tonight is mostly set in Children's Hospital or in the psych ward for context. They that were in the hospital, they that on the pavilion parented, they that refined their faces in the sieve of seizure, in the daylight met the carded men, the parking arm, the vertical blades of the guillotine elevator.
Doctors rose, as did their entourage. June, a morning, moving, a sun-glinted box of what faces, people disappearing.
They that wanted coffee, thousands must not have wanted coffee. They that were wanting watched from the insular cart. They that wanted were clairvoyants of sea tanks, tubings, and cardiums.
Cardiums, heart bouquets, whack jobs, staring.
They that were the cardiums wore it on their sleeves, their crimson gowns, their forehead temples, and they wagoned. There were they that were in the wagons, and those that carted others in wagons. It was numerous, who or who all were cardiums.
They passed through the foyer, we drank coffee, averting our eyes from sadness to sea tanks. We admired the sea tanks, we too being cardiums, staring.
Chairs were gliding smoothly door to door, real wheelchairs, into rooms where procedures occurred. It was ice capades, linoleum capades.
Balloons on wrists, carnations on laps, those that were more cardiums stumbled in the parade.
We feel lucky often during the parade.
Our daughter not being in certain parts during the spectacle, she is in pageant on an elevator, 20 ists in entourage, and us. Condition.
Chromosomal.
Condition.
Autism, Asperger's.
Condition.
Dietary restrictions.
Condition.
Sleep disorder.
Condition.
G-tube, no fundoplasty.
Condition.
Self-injurious.
Condition.
Developmental delay.
Condition.
Failure to thrive.
Condition.
Environmental allergies.
Condition.
Kidney, urinary problems.
Condition.
Seizure, neurological.
Condition.
Hypotonia.
Condition.
Global delays.
Nos.
Not otherwise specified. A theory of causation.
The etiology of autism is a study of factors arrayed as sons in the code of spectrum. Genetics, vaccines, parental error, environmental toxins, voodoo, refrigerator moms, sin. It is rising incidence or global prevalence. It is 1 in a million, 62 cases per 10,000, a lack of evidence from low and middle income countries. It is a vision of difference in the very first world, a 4-to-1 male to female ratio, the number of children known. Has the number of children known to have autism increased dramatically since the 1980s? It is an increasing strain and a prescriptive condition. Cumulative incidences, point prevalence, p-values, e-values, editorial error, hopeful outlook, juice boxes, and the children are unknown.
Not being, she is pageant, the spectacle of elevation of accounting, during and of, us disappearing.
They that were in the hospital one more time, and
In June, I'd had an appointment with my midwife, and I canceled it because I couldn't slug off the grief and the cumulative exhaustion. It was Maya's birthday. She'd stopped walking. We had to give her enemas because her GI tract stopped functioning. There was an explosion of poop all over the carpet and hallway, and it wasn't the first time, and Matthew cussed and cursed and scrubbed the birthday away, and I walked the park loop with Maya as she whimpered and screamed and whimpered, and was for that day. There was no joy, no party.
there was so much shit in those days, enemas and calms and a diuretic hum. She couldn't digest anything, even with the G-tube. 2,200 calories a day, and she was still wasting away. The joints of my fingers ached from working the carpet, weeping and gnashing and plotting the violent act. I was a violent act.
The next day, my midwife came, and she said, Abby, I helped you bring her into this world. I can help you bring her out. So we talked about hospice. We talked about removing the feeding tube. We talked about what a future without Maya would be. And I said I could never continue as an occupational therapist, and I doubted I could continue at all, and who knew if a marriage could survive it. We'd have to move away from this house, far. We would have to go very, very far away.
It is our ethical duty not to escape.
As for height and weight, body mass index, Maya was dropping off the charts from 15% under the second in a matter of months. Most children do not die in children's hospitals. In the air en route, they die in helicopters. On East Colfax in ambulances, they die. They do not die with such a smashing view of those Rockies.
Arise, fluffing the nimbus, helicopter blades whir up and up, the light soul puffs. The truth of the hospital system is death prevention, and sometimes death theft, and the truth of the ER more so. So acuity decreases in proportion to the degree of the field. Therapy in the hospital, then, is polished, is a strategy of low tiers and sympathizers. Dollars to distance, material affect, pages of reconnaissance.
A theory of causation.
Hospitals, contemporary and ancient, clear a time and smudge a space. They make a habitable house. Legal credentialing and financing frameworks are established to make structures stay. By individual governments, augmented on occasion by international organizations, churches, and blood banks, these stay. The characteristics of any house determine the care of its visitors. Wide windows, colorful hallways, lines on the floor to soothe and direct, a peaceful architecture. Delivery may be by sunlight or angels, sometimes the angel's mercy, sometimes death. We are waiting in the hall.
When we are not with the daughter, we visit the offices of payments and records. We walk again, somehow we're walking. We, stunned by the elevators, the gift shop, the loan library, the Jelly Belly food truck, the red wagon and wheelchair station, the hand sanitizing station. We check in, check out, stare at photos of stars like John Elway and Kermit and fundraisers and patients and medieval sun chairs and hydrotherabats and centered in puppies and flowers. We, weaving among the cardiums and the anti-guides, walk back, again 12 times. Where are our forehead tents?
I went to the pharmacy.
She was not there.
I went to the surgeon.
She was not there.
I went to the TV, the nurse's station, the family respite station.
She wasn't there. I was not there.
A we everywhere.
Mocks and fox as assemblies of pills, inoperative pillars with limbs in our various stumbling mouths.
They that visited the Medicaid offices, they who suspended themselves, hung themselves on pleas for assistance, they who hanging there found they needed additional help, were medicated, or not selves, nodded. We fought our way to lower ourself, a challenge.
The document from Dr. Moe, the neurologist, months before he died. The cause is unknown, and that's vexing to the mother. Further vexing is the younger's sensory processing disorder, and it's meant that this youngster has mouth and face aversion and does not eat or process things, for example, exploring toys with a mouth. Some aversions to certain textures, etc. Mother says his pregnancy was normal. Her second, she did not use any drugs, did not have any threatened miscarriage. Baby was born at 42 weeks, almost 9 pounds. The previous child, a boy, was large at birth as well, somewhere in nature. Well, large for a first baby. The mother believes her head was small at birth and has continued to be microcephalic.
They that suffered beyond the blinds themselves, the parents requested, watched not so much the patient, though they recorded her, but the mock and falk, the unusual parents of the child they were paid to survey.
They themselves, afraid of being the parents, became increasingly exuberant, showy even. Monstrous, lighted, destroying, delicious, deliquesce. They surveying the parents found the surface a veritable landmine. Love and the dove not returning, a gaze of horizon shifts the surveyors. They sat awake, turned inward. They changed professional dreams like the diapers of a child they swore or prayed they would never birth. They themselves afraid of being those parents.
I went to the neuropsychiatric ward. I found us there. I think we'll stop there.
Thank you.
That was fantastic. And all these books are for sale in the back also, aren't they? Perfect. So make sure to pick one up on your way out tonight, and they'll be back there signing them once we move into the open mic portion of tonight's, or the second open mic portion. To kind of retroactively give you a little more information about Michael.
Matthew.
Why do
It's
I
okay.
do that?
We're very close.
Matthew.
Strangely, my mom calls me Matthew all the time, and she doesn't have a child named Matthew. It's fine.
I call my husband Michael. That is so awkward.
It's better that you do it.
Yeah.
You know, even if you're lying, I appreciate it. To give you some retroactive information about Matthew. So Matthew is the author of most recently Spool, which we heard from tonight. It was the winner of the New Measure Prize, as well as he's been working on the text and image collaboration Imago for the Fallen World. Sounds fantastic. With Marius Lahine. He's published Still of the Earth as the Ark Which Does Not Move, Days, and a Sacrificial Zinc, which was the winner of Lena Miles Weaver Todd Prize. A number of chapbooks exist in addition to the couple we've heard from tonight, and there he is forthcoming with Future Poem in 2018. Matthew is a founding editor of Quarter After 8 and co-poetry editor of Colorado Review. He teaches at Colorado State University and lives in Fort Collins with his wife, the poet laureate Abby. Perfect. We're going to take just a handful of minutes here and open it up to a Q&A for our poets tonight. So if you guys want to come back up, we will barrage you with questions. And then if you're still looking to sign up, raise your hand and Millie will pass you the sheet.
Yeah.
I was asking to sign up.
Oh, okay.
I'll just write you down.
You're on the spot now. What do you really
Yeah, I'm
want
on
to
the
know?
spot. I really liked your last poems. It reminded me of my own parents when I was diagnosed with muscular dystrophy and they didn't know which kind. And I went for 18 months. And I wish I could hear their story. I've tried to write it in poetry, but it's not my story. It's their story. And it just reminded me of, 18 months and them trying to keep it together and trying to, getting horrible news every time they come in. And it just,
How old were
it's
you?
good to hear it had, it was a voice of, someone's been there,
How old were you at the time?
I was 10.
Okay.
And it was before they had charted the human genome, so it was really difficult. They were just, doctors were guessing, and they, go down the thing of symptoms, and I'd go to these hospital rooms, you you had an image of the little clouds, and you go in these children rooms, and there'd be all these machines, but then there'd be like clowns and stuff, and it just was so weird. It was just, as a kid, you notice that, you're like, this is not right. Yeah, but they kind of mixed them together, trying to make it seem reasonable, but it was completely unreasonable.
And we certainly found that we spent most of our time down at Children's Hospital in Denver, and it's a world-class facility with
It's beautiful.
deeply caring physicians and nurses and staff, and it's a beautiful space, and it's a space that's designed to have diversionary rainbows and elevators and coin machines and all sorts of things, and yet we encountered a similar kind of bafflement, and I think autism's diagnosis and treatment is that much farther behind, say, muscular dystrophy, and we encountered well-meaning people with no answers for us.
And at the same time you're down there, it's like you're saying, there are so many people with various disabilities, like a lot of leukemia and cancer patients who have their heads wrapped or are displaying their bald head, and there's kids with amputations. And so one of our things was autism in a way, at least when she was that little. It's sort of a secret disorder because she looks like a typical kid, but spend 8 seconds with her and you're pretty aware she's not. But one of our challenges has always been, like, you want to know your parents' story. I would love to know Maya's story. It's hard to speak for her, and she's nonverbal, so she's not giving that one up. But I think you just touched on maybe the most challenging part is we can feel like vampires trying to write, one, about our child and using our child as a text, and two, like being on the fringe of a disability community when we don't have a physical disability, but our life is so hijacked and we're all one together in our big messy family. And that's the trickiest line that we probably cross.
It took us a long time, I think, to come, well, I should say that this large project really initiated with Abby writing after our first bout with the hospital and feeling very frustrated and angry, partly because they called her refrigerator mom. They said, oh, she doesn't love her child. She has child has attachment issues because the mother doesn't love the child, which we were just appalled by this. And so Abby in particular was just enraged about this and wrote this initial piece of this. And it took us a long time to come to an acceptance that this was something we needed to do, and that it would not only be a clarifying way for us to understand what was going on, but it also had advocacy beyond us to other people, and that we had to kind of accept that role. And yet that was very difficult, still continues to be difficult, because we don't want to exploit Maya, even as we feel an ethical duty to name her and to have her name be in the book, because to be patient X is to be anonymous. And so I think we're really still working with how to present that and not feel sort of self-conscious about it.
Well, we really moved through stages of accepting everything the doctors told us and everything the nurses said, and such as you go in and your child gets an IV in their hand immediately. She had no need for an IV, but that's hospital procedure, just in case you might need one. We didn't know you could reject that. And so many other elements of the hospital we didn't know we could reject that didn't pertain to us, but they're just standard procedures, etc. And so as we worked through this over time, I was learning to be advocates. And neither of us had ever been advocates in this particular manner, but it was learning how to take control of our daughter's life to the best of our ability by the end of the book, which you don't see here, but they put her in a psych ward, totally inappropriately, when she was 4 years old for 3 weeks. And she was the only girl in there, and the other kids, they were taking them off drugs and trying to take Maya off drugs or put her on more drugs, and it was such a mess. And other kids were wrapped in white sheets for their own safety and were squawking like ravens, and I don't understand what all we went through. So the purpose of poetry in that time for us became to explore what we didn't know and couldn't talk to anybody else about, because we didn't know anybody else going through that. So.
Good questions?
Your performance of this was great as well, and it helped bring across the words as well. And with talking about how the writing process came for you, did you guys talk as you were writing it too? How did did you guys perform it together too, or did that come later with the work?
That's much later. And really, again, I want to give Abby credit for this manuscript because she really initiated this, and it was a manuscript. And she actually shopped it for a while and you know, thought this would be a standalone thing. But as time went on, the situation continued. It wasn't taken. And we continued to talk back and forth, and then at a certain point, Abby said, look at this, will you know, write your notes on this, write your comments on this. And so I started writing into it, literally. And that became part of it.
He didn't know he was writing into it. He was writing comments on the side. And then I thought, do you mind if I use that comment in the manuscript? Another comment, do you mind if I use that comment? And then he had his own poems going, like that first one, Good Day, which is actually the name of our pharmacy, is Good Day Pharmacy. Irony's too much there, but I started asking him if I could use other poems. He has one called The Violet Man, which plays on a violent man. And they were all of a piece until it became so obvious that this was a collaborative book, not a singular book. And so I asked him, get on board. And,
Yeah, and it's evolved really by interrogating each other and what we, you know, like getting that questioning into the book has been really important to model our own confusion, and hopefully then it's part of the questioning that a reader has as they're going through this, like, what is going on? Why is this fragmented, for instance? Or where are they in this treatment? Or where is the child? Is the child lost in the hospital? Are we lost in the hospital? And so I think that talking back and forth was a way both to clarify the fact that we were lost in this experience, and also to establish that kind of dialogue back and forth. And that helped us navigate our way, I wouldn't say out of it, because we're certainly still very much in it. Maya's 11 years old, she just started 6th grade. She's doing much better than she ever was, so that's the happy ending to it all, is that she's doing better.
But then more collaborators came into it unknowingly. So one time we shopped the book, it was a finalist, didn't make it, and went out on a limb and asked a secretive editor who said he could never be named for this. And
Would he
said,
share
yeah,
some of the comments?
He said, like, what happened? He said, well, some people loved it and said there's nothing like this out here. Some people hated it and they thought you were terrible parents and you didn't love your daughter, and what are you doing? And so we took both of these and had to add in more text and a lot of prose, actually, to start feeding it in. So even those comments from these readers that we know not of are now in there. Is something we had to respond to as we began to bridge between our own little community of our family and the outside world, and try our damnedest to share what the heck we're thinking about and experiencing.
I guess this isn't so much a question, but going off of that, there was so much vulnerability, and especially in those last poems, and admitting all of the emotions that come with something like this, which is frightening, because then people might say, you know, like, you're angry that you're cleaning poop out of the carpet, like, you like being a bad parent. But how was it difficult to put those things out there? I mean, based on that initial fear, the first poem came out of being told that you didn't love your daughter enough. I mean, like, how hard is it to put that out?
I think that I've always felt that externalizing the sort of psychic challenges you have, even if you don't understand them, getting them out is a way of creating enough distance to be able to begin to understand that. And so it was certainly an act of bravery to sort of expose ourselves this much. And there's a whole stream in the book about how we are vampirish, and the medical industry is vampirish, and it's preying upon this illness, and we're preying upon the illness as a narrative in a way. But we try to make it self-reflexive so that we are also exposing our own complicity in that. And I don't know if that alleviates, you know, the terror of it, but it makes the ethical witnessing of it move it away from simply a personal experience to something that is out there that then we think that there are, many other people who've experienced things like this. And so the book has a kind of trajectory towards advocacy that we hope really will reach other people and will allow other people to start tell their story. Because we realize, before I was born, I didn't have much understanding, let alone visible recognition of autistic individuals. And now they're everywhere to me. I can recognize difference everywhere. And so it's a journey towards like understanding difference. And so if we can make things visible in some way, then I think that helps make difference visible to the point where we begin to accept that we're all different. Not one of us in this room is the same, so why we insist on this narrative of homogeneity when it never existed in the first place. So there's a way in which maybe we're saying this that can be a kind of courage teacher in some way.
For me, it is terrifying because when Maya was an infant, from 0 to 3 years old, she received all these early intervention services in our house. And she received occupational therapy and physical therapy and speech therapy and ABA therapy. And I went back to school to become an occupational therapist. You cannot, I heard this goes on YouTube, so it's tricky, but I publish under my writing and maiden name, which is Kaupang, but for my medical practice, I'm always a Cooperman. And I don't tell people I'm a writer for the most part because it terrifies me that they might go back and see some of my weakest, dirtiest, I need a shot of tequila now, I'm screaming, I'm taking sleep meds, I can't cope, I have PTSD, it's all in the book. So yeah, let me tell you how you should raise your child, and I can't do that. And it is very scary. And there's a lot of HIPAA violations I'm always wondering about. I'm trying not to name names, yet name the ones whom we thanked in this journey. So it's a different slant to it, but it's something I'm always negotiating. Yeah. You.
I just wanted to ask, how did you come to the decision in the text to always describe Maya as the daughter, rather than by her name?
Well, she does get named, but it's a process. She doesn't get named in the chapbook, but in the full-length collection, which is about 3 times as long.
Eventually.
Does she at the very end in the chapbook?
Well, there's so much medical speak. Like, you go in and then, we need the POC in this room, we need the FOC over there, and the MOC over there. And the patient, the client, until it's sterile. And the POC, there's parents of child, and then there's a mother of child, father of child. And this little being with a real name, a real body, a real personality, she's the patient, just like every other kid in there, until they're all nameless, and they're the client and the patient. And so in some ways we try to work that into the text in varying degrees of how much distance we want to show.
And later in the book, we sort of say, we have our names and we say, Aby Kaupang, Matthew Cooperman, Maya Cooperman, here we are naming names. And that the naming becomes this act of sort of outing our story in a way. And we go into this whole thing with Maya means illusion and how we've been,
Literally does. We named our kid Illusion, and then looks what happens.
So we play around with that.
What you name your child. Be like Wonder Woman. Or
Yeah, but it happens later in the book, and I think that it happens in a way that there's kind of like this excruciating point of impersonality, and then we begin naming names, and it has this effect of like suddenly the child, not the child, but Maya rushes forward as a real person. And the other thing that is only barely available in that, but is in the full-length book, is we use photographs of Maya. And so there are these, excruciating photos of her as this, like 28-pound child, as a 4-year-old or something, and distended belly, or there's this crazy photograph that you think is photoshopped because she's lying in this fetal position in front of this like Gotham hospital. And it's just like ghastly. And that was just one of those outings we took. Like walk around the hospital, walk around the back, and Maya lays down, it's like, click, and we had no idea we were going to use that or anything. This was years before we started writing about this. But then it was like we had all this stuff. So the material history of her and her shining face at other moments in the book are really important, I think, in bringing her to life in a way.
Does Maya express herself in anything like art or, you know, anything at all? Have you thought about how in any way there's a way to get her voice, whatever that might be,
Yes.
into
So
it?
I love that question a lot because I've got at least 2 answers to it. And one, she has learned sign language to some degree. She's very sloppy. A lot of kids with autism have poor fine motor control, so her signs look very much alike. If this is horse, for her it's, and if this is, I don't know, swimming and biking all look very similar to her. And so then we got her an iPad, and it has a program called Prolo Quo, which has icons and pictures of different people and activities. She can navigate that thing like mad. I mean, she's really good at swiping and going to what she wants. But on the same hand, what do you want, Maya? Swimming, 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 horses, 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 horses. Whoa, okay. And she doesn't ask questions. And I could say self-centered, but she's not. She's a gem. And when people think of autism, they do all want to know, well, what's that special gift? Is she a numbers savant? Does she play piano like no one else? Her gift.
It's always the savant version that you want to, oh yeah, she's discovered, a new element.
She probably has, but it's not on her iPad, so she can't tell us. But her gift is joy. I have never met a more joyful person when she's joyful and not self-injurious. But she jumps, she claps, she just is out of control excited when you go to a car wash, or she sees a train. I mean, my God, what is this? Or the washing machine spinning. She notices the small things in life we would have never, ever seen. I mean, everybody loves her. She's the mascot of her school. Everywhere she goes, she's just so insanely happy, smiling, jumping. I want to put a jumpometer? Yeah, onto her to see, like, she couldn't be in the Special Olympics because she doesn't have any drive towards following any type of rule. But she's got to do something there. I bet she jumps more than anyone on earth ever has.
Yeah, if you could harness her energy, you could power the world. I mean, it's amazing. And she has these particular enthusiasms that we just sort of follow. So she absolutely loves elevators and car washes. So we're working on a series of essays about like these random like breaking and entering moments we have when we're like, hey, there's a municipal building, and Maya just beelines towards it because she knows there's an elevator in that building. And the next thing you know, we're like, it's the middle of the night, we're riding up and down the elevator in the city building or something, and they're learning about all the different types of elevators, and that's an Otis. That's an Otis 500. That's really good.
That's a Westinghouse.
Yeah. Hobbies we never intended.
Did you ever notice when you go through a car wash, they always have a website you can visit if you want to know more about the car wash?
Go to the website. Lots of information.
I mean, 15 horsepower, you need at least 8 blowers if you're down to 15 horsepower to do a good job. Yeah.
Some specialties.
Touchless? I don't know. Yeah. Sorry. Any questions on car washes? What do you?
I was just curious, like, just some of the things you commented on. Like, I've never heard of a refrigerator mom. What does that mean?
That means a mother who is very cold to her child. And this was a huge theory. If you watch the Temple Grandin movie, it comes up in there. But they said Temple Grandin was autistic because her mother never hugged her or loved her or cared for her. And all of these kids who are stuck in their own inner shell, which when they're babies and toddlers, they really can appear that way. It's the mother's fault. And even now, when you read studies about, we've discovered the cause of autism, there's always a woman at fault behind it. It is disgusting. But they also gave us things like when Maya was tiny, they said, well, wear her in your front pack all the time. It's not evidence-based, we don't know, but hold her as close as you possibly can. So until my back went out, she was right there. And I think that was beautiful advice, but for any child, not because I was a refrigerator mom.
The thing with the refrigerator mom too was that that came out in, we began to understand what our rights were as parents through all of this. And one of the rights we had was to see what all the nurse and doctor's notes were.
Yeah, you can request your own medical records at any time you want from any doctor. They are yours.
Thank
And
you.
they have to
Yeah.
print them out and hand them to you.
And so we got all this stuff, and then, and we went in, I'm the child of a physician. Abby, was in occupational therapy school, she's a medical professional. We were not idiots about this. So we went in with a certain amount of sophistication and approached the encounter with how this is the information we can provide you that will help you to help us. The notes we got back were parents are uncooperative, mother, clearly a refrigerator mom.
Very rude to the nurses.
We're very rude to the nurses. All this stuff that was like, just blew our hair back. Like, what? Yeah, I mean, it was very
there.
powerful.
He looked like you before all of that.
Yeah, and so I think that was the initial impetus for you to begin that because Abby was just furious. Like we loved this little creature as much as we possibly could. We were there at Children's Hospital because we loved her. And then to get that kind of response from people who were supposedly inherently sympathetic was shocking. And I think that began a kind of, and if there's an oppositional energy in the book, it has a lot to do with that. That it's taken us a long time to get over the sense that inpatienting Maya to a neuropsychiatric ward for 3 weeks was in her best interest. They were doing drug research on her. Let's take her off this drug and try this drug and see what happens. And she doesn't sleep if she doesn't get that drug. Great, let's take her off of it. And it was a disaster. It was an absolute disaster, and it was traumatizing.
And
for
Matthew and I
everybody.
couldn't be together most of this because we had a little boy who was about 7 at the time, and we live in Fort Collins, and Children's Hospital is an hour and a half away. And so we were just en route all the time, passing each other on the highway and counting on strangers to help out all of the time. But somebody had to be home with the 7-year-old, getting him off to school, and somebody had to be at the psych ward with Maya. It was a really intense time. So also part of this book was leaving notes for each other. Hey, how's your day at the psych ward? And you leave a little note on the table, and the other responds, and all of a sudden.
Yeah, and that gets into the book. There's lots of little notes of us back and forth, just trying to keep each other alive.
But I went to get Maya's just annual well child check a couple weeks ago, and it was one of the best visits. We've had the same doctor for 9 years now.
Yeah, our pediatrician's wonderful, actually. We
Yeah.
should say that.
And he just said to me, "You look so happy." And I said, "Yeah, my daughter's healthy. Everyone's alive in my family. I am ridiculously happy. I just love this." And the change that had happened is we stopped trying to fix our daughter. After all of these non-diagnoses, not otherwise specified, we tried to fix her for 7 years, I think, or maybe more. And I don't know when we stopped trying to fix her, but we just love her life. And instead of sending her to all these therapies every day, and she still has some, like horse therapy, and we get her respite workers who take her swimming and take her on all sorts of fun adventures because we want her to just love her life for as long as we have her. I want her to love her life, and I don't expect her to have a work program and stack cones someday. And that's still what a lot of therapists are aiming for, is let's make sure we can employ these people to be industrious. I don't care if she can sort your silverware or stack your orange cone. I want her happy. So we really changed, and we're lighter humans now.
I was also just curious, because I've heard that people that have children with disabilities or what have you, they'll have certain groups that you can become a part of that kind of are supportive. Did you ever know about anything like that? Or?
I tried them.
Were they just too weird?
It was a bunch of angry, crying people, and I was already angry and crying enough, and to surround myself with that energy was awful. And I became an OT, so some of their kids were my clients. So I backed out right away.
Yeah, I mean, the professional upside is that Abby, through all this experience, went into early pediatric intervention for OT and has helped out a measurable number of families who were very much in our situation. And often it's the family that needs the help. The kiddos, obviously, in their own struggle, but the family could be so dysfunctional. Like they might be like marginally functional, and then that's the thing that just breaks the camel's back. And you know, the household is the kid's not going to get better because the family is in such dire straits. And Abby's made a huge amount of difference for so many families in Larimer County that you know, they don't have a sympathetic ear. So you know, I think those groups can be very powerful and helpful for people. We have a kind of built-in community that's helped us through my academic career. Has got people who are very caring, and they've been super supportive and helpful for us in that way. But there's certainly lots of organizations that do great work with that. We went a little bit, and it was so surreal. And you know, like you said, like we have enough grief. I can't deal with your grief either, you know, right now.
Yeah. Part of the psych ward was every morning all of the parents gathered for this meeting. It was the worst thing I've ever been through, I think. Because these parents were just, they were so upset, and the stories they told were worse situations than ours even. And I couldn't bear it. But now I would think, I wouldn't mind starting one of those groups because I feel strong and joyful, like I was saying, and I feel like I give back to the community. There are certain things that are missing, like a blended formula foods group. It sounds really weird, but when these kids get G-tubes, automatically you're given Peptamen and Monsanto products and big farm products, as if your kid couldn't function with maybe some organic meat and vegetables like every other kid. It's like taking their name away. You can't eat real food. And so for years we actually did try that with my own pureeing everything. We got ourselves this big Vitamix industrial blender, and when we traveled even to Canada, we brought our blender with us. And, you know, but there's, all the doctors said, no, don't do that. I'd love to start a support group for that and say, here's some nutritional recipes, how you blend them. There's a blender you need. When it gets stuck in the G-tube, here's how you fix it. It's on my mind. Just, yeah. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
We could have spent the rest of the time asking questions, I'm sure. Thank you, guys. So we've got just a few more people for open mic, and then we'll wrap up. So do remember that they've got books in the back, and they will sign them for you. And also be sure to come next month. It's Jennifer Siner and Rick Robbins on October 12th. So the next three readers are me, and then Jaiden Schrubb, and then Amias Shipley. And then if we have time and anyone else is interested, just let me know. Okay. It's so weird to go from emceeing to then reading, but okay, so I'm just going to read one poem. It's called The Rape Kit. You are the consistency of a fingernail, swelling the swarm begins in blood. You are a buzzing bag, the witch has made you thin. Needle enters soft white apple, armed skin, forgets to ask you as she thins, closer to that outside your skin. Bitch forgets to ask before she skins, plucks ancient hair, scrapes thin, lining deep sides of deep vagina, through twin labia's dry flesh grin. Let Q-tips trace pink spots, nipples, stomach, neck, skin, where foreign cum may still sleep. Let her pin you to the bed again, rename the sore pieces of a body, sample dead skin. Thank you.
My name's Jaiden. I've never performed at this before, but I have two poems. I do this thing where I collect postcards whenever I travel places, and then I write poems on the back of them. So I have two of them on my phone, it just so happens. So the first one was written on the back of a Grand Canyon postcard. I can't trust myself in high places. Sometimes I want to fly, or jump to my death. Sometimes I fail to see the difference. Sometimes I want to do other stupid things, like buy a pet, legally change my name, kiss my best friend. I saw 3 flipped and crumpled cars over the edge of a cliff. I wanted to climb down and crawl inside until I found skeletons. When I looked over the edge of the Grand Canyon, I wondered how many deaths weren't accidents. And the other one I wrote on the back of an Arizona postcard. It's funny the things you do for someone in their absence. Usually, when I miss someone, I punch walls and other unforgiving things. I give myself bloody knuckles. I lie in bed and stare at the ceiling as if the constellations of bumps and other marks could give counseling where the real stars couldn't. But now, I'm kissing broken knuckles. I want to kiss everything better, every broken bone, every shattered soul, every scarred wrist, every leaking heart. I'd kiss a cactus if it would make your pain stop. I'm doing things I've never done. I'm writing love poems. I'm dancing in the kitchen. I'm singing to the trees. One night, like so many others before, I unplugged all of my electronics and watched them die. And for the first time, I didn't envy them.
The problem you run into when you write your open mic poems right before open mic is that 1, you don't revise them at all, and 2, your phone gets down to 9%. So that's where we're at tonight. Okay, this first poem is called Northwoods. 50 days since I saw you last, 100 until I will see you again. 2 weeks since we have spoken out loud, life gets too busy for phone calls. How will you change in 100 days? I hope I can still reach you by then. I hope mountains will not replace the rivers. I hope I will still feel welcome within your walls. The plan is as it was. I will come to you like before. We will see your city, and then we will go home, and I will feel at home. You are the longest plan I have ever had. You are the plan who finally got me to leave. You are not just a plan. I need to stop saying that. Northwoods, you are where I want to be, not for the place, but for you. No matter the winter, I will go to you. I am home, but I want to go home. You are home, and you are not a place. You are. I didn't know what one and only meant. I didn't know what would be enough to get me moving. I didn't know you. You are not the only thing I need, not the only thing I want, but you are the person for whom, for you, Northwoods, I would drop it all. Northwoods, I will see your changing leaves. I want to see you as you are without sun. I want to see your dark and cold. I want the cracks of you. They show light. The air can freeze and seize my lungs, and Northwoods, I still want to breathe you. The ice can form a shell over my skin, and Northwoods, I still need to touch you. The fog can block my view, and the cold can sting my eyes, and Northwoods, I still need to see you. You are not a place, you are not a destination, but I need Northwoods to get to you. Okay, I have one more poem, and this one is very, very short. This one's called Triumph. Keep in mind, when the world goes dark, that in many ways you are standing above the sun. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so that's it. Thank you everyone for coming. Make sure to check out the books in the back, and please fill out the surveys on your chair and also put those in the back for us.
And put your chairs against
That's right, put your chairs against the wall.